I took the night shift at the hospital to help my family out with bills. I was 32 and had been a nurse for years. I knew the night shift was quiet and eerie, but I needed the money. That first night, everything felt strange. The hum of machines replaced the daytime buzz, and I walked the empty corridors just trying to focus on my work. One shift I noticed a door at the end of the hall was ajar. I heard soft moans coming from inside. I hesitated and thought maybe a patient needed help, so I pushed the door open. But the room was empty. The bed was made and the lights were off. My heart raced a bit, but I shrugged it off. Maybe I imagined it. The next few nights were unsettling. One patient mentioned she had dreams about a little girl. I remember she described the girl sitting on her bed, smiling at her. I wanted to laugh it off, but it sent chills down my spine. I couldn't shake off the thought of that strange room. As my shifts went on, I started to hear strange sounds. Whispers echoed down the hall, faint at first. I thought it might be the hospital settling, but still I'd pause and listen. One night, a patient said someone was watching her while she slept. She was scared and swore she felt eyes on her. I told her it was probably just her imagination, but deep down I wasn't so sure. Every shift my feet grew heavier as I neared that room. The whispers became clearer, and sometimes I heard a soft giggle. I wanted to check again but felt silly. What would I find? I thought about telling someone, but I didn't want to sound crazy. I was tired. The night shifts wore me down. Then one night came when everything changed. I gathered my courage and walked toward that room. My heart thudded in my chest as I pushed the door open. I heard giggles louder than before. I felt sure I'd see someone, something. But the room was empty again. I took a step back, ready to close the door. Then I heard a voice say, "Why are you looking for me?" I turned around, but no one was there. The corridor was empty. My heart raced as I stumbled back, slamming the door. The whispers vanished, leaving me in silence. I felt a cold sweat on my skin. What had just happened? Was my mind playing tricks on me? I wanted to scream for help, but I was all alone. Each night after that, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I'd turn and see nothing. I still hear that voice sometimes whispering in my thoughts. It torments me, keeping me awake at night. I wonder about that little girl. I wonder what I stumbled into during those long shifts. I'm still not sure I'll find the answers. The following night I tried to shake the fear off. I focused on my duties and kept my mind busy. But as the hours crawled by, the shadows seemed to stretch longer in the dimly lit ward. I stopped at the nurse's station, trying to chat with a colleague, but my words felt heavy on my tongue. I wanted to say something about the room, about the giggles, but I held back. Then, during a routine check, I went into a room to check on an elderly patient. As I adjusted the blanket, I noticed her staring at the wall, her eyes wide with terror. "What's wrong, Mrs. Thompson?" I asked, concerned. She barely moved her lips. "The little girl," she whispered. "She's in the corner. She wants me to go play." I felt a chill creep over me. "What do you mean? There's no one there," I said, trying to reassure her. But the fear in her eyes told me she was convinced. I glanced towards the corner, half expecting to see something. Nothing. Just shadows. "Mrs. Thompson, you're imagining things," I said, forcing a smile. I turned to walk away when she grasped my wrist tightly. "She's real, dear," she said, her voice trembling. "She wants all of us to join her." When I finally left her room, I felt shaky. Was there truly something in this hospital? I tried to tell myself it was just the stress of night shifts maybe messing with my mind. But every time I closed my eyes, I could hear her voice echoing. That was when I decided to face the bizarre happenings head-on. The next night, I approached the ominous door once more. My heart raced, but I felt a need to understand. I stood in front of it, adrenaline surging. I was about to push it open when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned quickly, expecting to see a fellow nurse. Instead, there was only darkness in the empty hallway. That same voice whispered near my ear. "Why are you here?" My pulse quickened. I backed away, but before I could leave, a strange sensation washed over me like a cold breeze. I tried to speak, to ask who was there, but my breath hitched in my throat. The voice giggled, echoing down the hallway before fading into silence. Confused and terrified, I ran back to the nurse's station. I found myself pacing, telling myself to calm down. I couldn't ignore this any longer. I had to tell someone, anyone. But would they believe me? A short while later, a doctor walked in. Something about his demeanor felt off, like he was aware of the oppressive atmosphere. I approached him nervously, ready to spill everything. But before I could say a word, he smiled softly and said, "It's only a matter of time, isn't it?" I stumbled back, startled. "What do you mean?" But he just looked at me, eyes filled with an emotion I couldn't read. Then he walked away, leaving me with a sickening feeling. That's when I saw it. A small silhouette standing at the end of the corridor just beyond my sight. My breath caught in my throat, and it was just the start of the night from hell. I stood frozen, staring at the silhouette. It was small, almost childlike, with wisps of something that looked like hair framing its head. My heart pounded as it shifted slightly, revealing a hint of its face. The features seemed blurred, like a figure seen through fog. It didn't move forward, but I could feel its presence tugging at something deep inside me. "Is anyone there?" I croaked, my voice barely escaping my lips. The silence hung heavy. Then, in an instant, it vanished, as if swallowed by the shadows. Panic surged through me. I didn't know what to do. Should I check the room again? Would I find Mrs. Thompson's little girl? I turned back, glancing down the hallway one last time before making my way toward the room. Each step felt heavier than the last. As I reached the door, I pushed it open carefully. Mrs. Thompson lay asleep, her chest rising and falling steadily. I hoped the little girl had not disturbed her. I tiptoed closer, ready to check on her when suddenly, the lights flickered. A cold draft swept through the room, rustling papers on the bedside table. I caught a glimpse of the corner, where shadows danced on the wall. My instincts screamed at me to leave, but my curiosity held me hostage. "Please just show yourself," I whispered into the darkness. That was when I heard it again, the giggle. It was soft and airy, echoing around me. I looked everywhere but saw nothing. My heart raced as the giggle turned into a high-pitched laugh, growing louder. I stumbled back, staring at the corner where Mrs. Thompson had seen the girl. "Leave me alone!" I shouted, surprising myself with my own fear. But it only laughed in response, light and haunting. I could almost see the outline of a small hand waving from the shadows before it disappeared entirely. I couldn't take it anymore. I sprinted out of the room, nearly colliding with the nurse's station. I needed to talk to someone. Waking a colleague might seem insane, but I was past that point. As I rushed to find someone, I bumped into the same doctor again. He was standing at the end of the corridor, eyes fixed on me. "There you are," he said, his tone almost teasing. "I was wondering if you'd run into her." "Run into who?" I shot back, trying to keep my voice steady. "What is going on in this hospital?" He simply smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You'll find out soon enough." Before I could process this, the lights flickered violently, plunging the hallway into darkness. My breath hitched again as I felt the walls close in. I turned to make my escape, but the giggle returned, echoing around me, now closer than ever. In that pitch-black void, I felt something brush against my shoulder and my heart dropped. A cold whisper threaded its way through the darkness. "Come play with us." With a wild surge of fear, I bolted down the hallway, feeling the shadows chase after me. I had to get away. I had to find a light, a safe place. That was when I heard the door behind me creak open, and the breath of cold air engulfed me again. I looked back, but I couldn't see anything, just the yawning darkness. I sprinted down the hallway, my heart racing as the echo of laughter heightened the panic in my chest. The darkness felt alive, pressing against me as I pushed through a cloud of fear. At the end of the hall, an emergency exit sign flickered, its feeble light bathing the doorway in a sickly green. I lunged toward it, desperate to escape whatever was haunting me. As I reached for the handle, a noise made me freeze. The low creak of the door opening. I wasn't alone. I turned too quickly, almost losing my balance. My eyes darted around, but nothing revealed itself in the shadows. I held my breath, straining to pick up any sound. The giggle faded, replaced by an oppressive silence. The air felt heavier now, thick with an unseen weight. I shoved the door open and stumbled into the stairwell. The fluorescent lights flickered erratically, shadows twisting around me like living things. I climbed the stairs 2 at a time, the echo of my footsteps breaking the eerie silence. Once on the landing, my chest tightened. This floor was dark, the light above barely illuminating the space. As I stepped out, I heard it again. A soft whisper, almost melodic. "Come play." I looked around, my pulse drumming in my ears. This floor was supposed to be empty. The patients were all downstairs. I felt a chill crawl up my spine as the voice echoed in my mind. It wasn't just an invitation. It was a command, sounding more alluring than threatening. As I searched the darkened hallway, I saw something flash in my peripheral vision. A flicker of white, too fast to identify. I turned sharply, squinting into the murkiness. There was nothing, just shadows. I took a cautious step forward, my breath catching as something rustled in the nearby supply room. "Is someone there?" I called, the tremor in my voice betraying my fear. Silence. Then a soft thump followed by another giggle. This time, it felt closer. Too close. I felt like prey being hunted, and instinct kicked in. I turned to flee. But before I could move, the supply room door swung open. I gasped, ready to run. But instead of a menacing figure, there was just a small ball. It rolled toward me, stopping at my feet. A child's ball, bright and plastic, the kind you'd expect to see on a playground. I bent down, confused. I picked it up, clutching it tightly. "Where did you come from?" I whispered, scanning the hallway. Something was very wrong. The laughter returned, echoing through the halls, but it felt different now. Mocking, playful. I had to get out of there. I turned to sprint back down the stairs when I caught sight of a small figure at the end of the hallway, silhouetted against the dim light. It stood still, head tilted as if waiting for me to approach. My instincts warned me to flee, but something immobilized me. In that moment, I felt a strange mixture of fear and enchantment. Then it vanished. Just like that, my heart pounded, and I gripped the ball harder. I couldn't leave, not without knowing more. I moved hesitantly toward the stairs, the hallowed whispers growing louder, drowning out my thoughts. But now, with each step down, I felt the weight of a decision pressing me to turn back. Just as I reached the first floor, I remembered Mrs. Thompson. The girl. Was she trying to tell me something? As the giggling started again, now swirling around in exhilaration, my resolve hardened. I rushed back towards her room, the shadows swirling at my heels. What I might find there could change everything. I dashed back down the hallway, my mind racing. Each footfall felt louder, like a countdown to something inevitable. The laughter whispered around me, a chorus of hidden voices leading me toward Mrs. Thompson's room. The flickering lights cast eerie shapes against the walls, making every shadow seem alive, better at hiding than I was at figuring it all out. When I reached her door, it was slightly ajar. I took a deep breath before pushing it open. The room was dark, the curtains drawn tight. I stepped in, clutching the ball like a lifeline. "Mrs. Thompson?" I called softly, my voice trembling. No answer came. Only the faint hum of the hospital machinery nearby. I glanced around, trying to make sense of the place. Her bed was empty, sheets pulled back neatly as if she had just gotten up. The air was thick with a sense of absence, and my instincts screamed at me that something wasn't right. I could feel the weight of the shadows pressing in, clinging to my skin. "Where are you?" My voice broke the silence, sending a chill up my spine. I was alone, but the laughter still echoed in my ears, taunting me. Just then I caught sight of a small nightstand beside the bed. A few toys were strewn about, a stuffed bear, some crayons, and a little drawing pad. I picked up the crayons, the pastel colors bright against the dark room. My eyes fell to the drawing pad, opened to a page filled with childlike sketches. But they weren't just random doodles. A chill ran over me as I tried to make sense of what lay before me. There were odd shapes, twisted figures, and in the corner, a dark scribble of a face that looked back at me, mouth open in a silent scream. "Is this what you were trying to show me?" I whispered, as if the drawing might respond. Just then I felt a rush of cold air sweep through the room. I shivered, dropping the crayons as the lights flickered again, the world around me momentarily swallowed by darkness. Then a whisper, the same melodic voice from before. "Play with us." I turned sharply, the fear gripping me like a vice. My breath quickened. I felt like a moth drawn to the flame, and I knew I should turn and run, but curiosity pinned me in place. Just then, I heard a giggle, more pronounced this time. It didn't come from the shadows, but from the other side of the bed. With wary steps I moved around, heart pounding in my chest. That's when I saw it. A small, pale hand peeking out from under the bed, fingers curling as if beckoning me to join. "Mrs. Thompson?" I whispered, kneeling down to peek beneath. My stomach twisted with dread when I saw nothing but darkness. Was she hiding? Or was there something else down there? That's when the ball rolled away from me, all on its own, and stopped just a few feet from the bed. It sat there, taunting me. I glanced back under the bed, the hand now gone. I felt a rush of panic, every instinct telling me to flee, but the laughter pulled me closer, a sweet, sinister invitation. "Come play." I stood frozen, heart racing, knowing this wasn't just a game anymore. Something was waiting for me, and a part of me wanted to find out what it was, even as the rest of me screamed to escape. I could feel the tension thickening, the air pregnant with possibilities. I took a step closer to the bed, everywhere in me screaming that I was making a mistake. But curiosity had woven itself into my very core. In that moment, it all felt too crucial to turn back. Then the shadows shifted. The lights flickered again, and I felt my stomach drop. Suddenly, everything went dark. My eyes fluttered open to a dim twilight. I was still in Mrs. Thompson's room, but somehow I had ended up on the floor. Dazed, I pushed myself up and scanned the room. The air felt thick and stale, like I had stumbled into a tomb. The shadows hadn't retreated. They loomed closer, wrapping around me like a suffocating blanket. "What just happened?" I muttered, feeling the heat of panic creeping up my throat. I blinked hard, trying to shake the lingering fog from my mind. That's when I noticed the ball. It had rolled further away, now sitting ominously under the bed. "Come play," the voice had whispered softly in my ear. I recoiled, the hairs on the back of my neck prickling. Leaving the room seemed like the wisest choice, but my feet felt frozen. I turned toward the door just as a distant cry echoed down the hallway. It didn't sound human, more like a child's wail, piercing and full of despair. I summoned my courage. Reality felt thin. Was I fully awake? I rose slowly, inching closer to the sound, drawn along feebly by morbid curiosity. My heart drummed violently against my ribcage as I edged toward the door, lingering on the threshold. "Help!" The voice called again, this time more urgent. I hesitated, gripping the door frame for support. My instincts urged me to flee, yet another voice whispered that I couldn't abandon whoever was in distress. I slipped out into the corridor. The laughter had faded, replaced by a palpable stillness like the world was holding its breath. Each step down the hallway felt like a step deeper into a nightmare, spiraling towards something I couldn't understand. Then I saw something dart across the corridor, a flash of white and gray. Was it a kid? I chased after it, my pulse racing. "Wait! Where are you?" I called, pushing past the flickering overhead lights, chasing the ghost of movement. I rounded a corner and saw a glimpse of a figure at the end of the hall. Small, with disheveled hair, standing just outside another room. "Don't go," I pleaded, fatigue weighing down my words. I lunged forward, desperate to keep the figure in sight. But the moment I reached the end, the door slammed shut. "No!" I cried, slamming my hand against the wood. The corridor around me appeared darker, shadows feeding off my fear. I noticed a sign beside the door. Pediatric ward. A place I wasn't allowed to be. With trembling hands, I pushed the door. It groaned, but held firm. My heart sank. I couldn't let this go. I stepped back, gauging the distance. I could kick it open. Just before I took the plunge, a soft voice emerged from within, too muffled to decipher but laced with clear distress. Help me! It resonated like an echo from deep within a well, drawing me in. Please! I banged on the door, panic weaving through me like an electric current. Moments stretched into eternity. I'm not sure how long I stood there before the door creaked open slightly, revealing nothing but darkness. No figure in sight. And then, everything turned darker than the deepest night. I felt a pull as if the darkness itself had extended a hand to drag me into an abyss. I staggered back, fear consuming me, when I caught the faintest glimpse of the drawing from Mrs. Thompson's room on the walls. The same twisted faces, outlined in something resembling chalk. What was happening? I turned to run, but my feet felt like lead. The laughter returned, harmonizing with the whispers until the corridor erupted in chaos. I shut my eyes tightly, sure I was about to lose myself entirely. Then, I heard it. A child's soft giggle, breathy and malicious. Come play! In that moment my resolve shattered. Something was wrong, terribly wrong, and I was trapped within it. I opened my eyes again. The darkness wasn't as dense, but it was still there, alive with flickering shadows. I was no longer standing outside the pediatric ward door. Somehow I had moved further down the hallway. Panic kicked in. Had I really run, or was I still trapped in this nightmare? I turned slowly, scanning the corridor. The lights overhead flickered erratically, casting eerie shapes on the walls. My breath quickened. Was the giggling just a figment of my imagination? I pressed my back against the cool wall and slid down to sit. I needed to think. I needed to find a way out. Then I heard it again, a soft, almost playful sound. Come play, it echoed, but this time it was closer, like it was right beside me. A chill crept down my spine. I turned my head sharply, expecting to see something lurking in the shadows. No one was there. But a crumpled piece of paper caught my eye, sticking out from beneath a nearby bench. I crawled toward it, feeling drawn to whatever it contained. The edges of the paper were stained, and as I smoothed it out, the words appeared in messy handwriting. They come in the night, don't let them in. Who comes? I whispered to myself. My heart pounded. I could almost feel the weight of unseen eyes watching me. What hidden truth was in this place, and why did I come here? I shoved the paper into my pocket, standing up slowly, looking back toward the pediatric ward. Maybe the answer was inside. The corridor felt alive as I approached the door. It looked different now, more sinister somehow, like it was breathing. I reached out, the handle cold against my palm. I turned it, and it clicked open. The door swung inwards with a slow creak, exposing an endless black. Help me! The voice was softer now, whispering directly into my mind. I stepped inside, fighting the urge to retreat. The room was vast, empty, but shadows danced around the edges, swirling in unnatural patterns. Suddenly a loud bang echoed from deep within the darkness. Then a soft thud, like something hitting the floor. My heart skipped. Was there really someone in here? I took a cautious step forward, the hairs on my arms standing on end. Then I spotted movement to my left. A small table sprawled with toys, but they weren't just toys. They were scattered as if someone had been playing. But there were no children, just me. Slowly I walked over to the table, feeling drawn to a red ball, the same one I had seen in Mrs. Thompson's room. Why are you here? My voice trembled, mingling with the weight of the silence. The ball rolled slightly, nudged by an invisible force. I jumped back, stomach twisting. That's when I saw it. A small shadow creeping across the wall, barely perceptible but unmistakably there. My pulse raced. I was not alone. Come play, it called again, this time sounding enraged. My instinct screamed at me to flee, but as I turned, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang, locking me inside. I felt a surge of desperation. Let me out, please. I banged on the door, panic flooding my thoughts. But there was no response. Only the laughter, louder now, ringing in my ears. And just like that, the shadows closed in, engulfing everything. I gasped, suddenly terrified of the darkness that was no longer just an absence of light. It had become a living force, ready to swallow me whole. That's when I found myself face to face with the silhouette of a child. It wasn't playing anymore. I was certain of one thing. It wasn't going to let me go without a fight. The child's shadow loomed larger, shifting and twitching unnaturally in the murky darkness. My heart raced. "What? What do you want?" I stammered, my voice barely audible over the cacophony of laughter echoing off the walls. I expected silence, but instead, the child only leaned closer, revealing hollow eyes that seemed to pierce through me. "Come play." The soft voice turned sharp, like shards of glass. Panic surged through me, spurring my instinct to flee, but the space felt closing in tighter. I stumbled backward, but the cold steel door held firm, unyielding. It mocked my desperation. Then I noticed something glinting on the floor near the table. I squinted, trying to focus. As I drew closer, I recognized it. A small metal key, tarnished and twisted. My heart skipped a beat. It was as if it had been waiting for me to find it. But to unlock what? Soft tug at the back of my mind urged me to pick it up. I hesitated. What if it's a trap? What if they're using me? The laughter intensified, swirling around me like a storm. The shadows danced more wildly now, flickering across the walls as if they were awaiting my decision. I crouched down, fingers trembling as I reached for the key. It was cool to the touch, heavy in my palm. I felt a momentary sense of clarity, a raw connection to the hidden truth of this place. Maybe it can help me escape, I thought, glancing cautiously at the shadow child. Its eyes watched me, keen and hungry. I got to my feet, still gripping the key like a lifeline. "What are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. The child didn't answer. Instead, the shadows thinned for an instant, revealing a doorway on the far side of the room that I hadn't noticed before. A rush of hope flowed through me. Maybe it leads outside, I thought. I made my way towards the new opening, staying close to the wall, wary of the darkness that still writhed around me. But as I stepped forward, a piercing wail erupted from the child. "No! Stay with us!" it cried, the sound reverberating in my chest, shaking my resolve. My instincts screamed at me to keep moving, but dread rooted me to the spot. The shadows launched themselves at me, swirling like a cyclone. Then, without warning, the lights overhead flickered violently before plunging the room into absolute darkness. I couldn't see anything, not even the outlines of my own hands. I felt the brush of icy air on my skin as laughter morphed into frantic screams that gnawed at my sanity. "Get away!" I shouted, but my voice was swallowed by the storm of sound and shadow. My legs felt heavy, but I forced myself to step toward the doorway, fueled by adrenaline. I had to know what lay beyond this nightmare. With every step, the screaming grew louder, echoing my own fear. My heart raced as I stumbled blindly, praying the key in my hand would be my salvation. I collided against a cold surface, my breath catching in my throat. The doorway? I fumbled for the handle, fingers shaking. And that's when I veered into a wave of heat. My other senses kicked in. The scent of decay mixed with something far worse, suffocating. The laughter twisted into a sinister chorus. "You can't leave us." I yanked at the door handle, my panic mounting. It was locked. "Let me out," I screamed. But instead of releasing me, the door shuddered violently as if something was pushing from the other side. The shadows around me swelled, tightening their grip, pulling me towards the darkness. I clutched the key tighter, desperate for an escape that felt farther away than ever. But then I heard it, a child's voice, calm and steady amid the chaos. "Use the key." Something deep within me stirred. Did I have the strength to fight? I thrust the key into the lock, heart racing. I had to know what lay on the other side. As the key slid into the lock, a jolt of energy surged through me. I twisted it and the door creaked as if it had been waiting for this moment. The chaos around me fell silent, replaced by a heavy stillness that felt both calming and ominous. With a deep breath, I pushed open the door. It swung wide, revealing a narrow hallway drenched in gloom. Dim, flickering lights adorned the ceiling, barely illuminating the peeling walls. I hesitated, the weight of indecision gnawing at me. Was this a relief or another trap? I stepped inside. The door closed behind me with a soft thud, and I felt an unsettling certainty that I had sealed myself in. The laughter from before faded into hushed whispers, Anxiety laced through my veins, but the urge to forge ahead propelled me down the corridor. As I moved, the air thickened with a musty odor. Old medical supplies lined one side, their wrappings sunken and discolored. Was I in an old hospital? A chilling memory shot through me, the tales of abandoned facilities hosting dark secrets. I needed to keep moving but dreaded what lay ahead. Then, faintly, I heard it again. The child's voice echoed from deeper within the darkness. "Come play." It was softer now, almost inviting. I felt a pull towards the sound, a desire to understand what it meant. I turned a corner and froze. My heart sank as I faced a series of small rooms, their doors ajar. Each room was a reflection of the unworldly chaos from before. Inside the first, dolls with cracked porcelain faces sat in a circle, their glassy eyes staring blankly at nothing. It felt wrong in a way that knotted my stomach. Against my better judgment, I peered into the next room. There, shadows flickered like candlelight, illuminating a small wooden table on which lay scattered drawings, pictures of distorted figures with wide, grinning faces drawn in hasty strokes. My palms grew sweaty as I recognized one of them. It was me, but the smile stretched unnaturally across my face, painted so vividly that it was horrifying. I stumbled back, panic creeping in once more. "This isn't real," I whispered to myself. "I have to wake up." But the laugh pierced the silence again, bouncing off the walls and echoing in my mind. "You can't leave us." The words were a chant now, rising and falling like waves around me. Suddenly a loud crash echoed from the end of the hall. My breath hitched in my throat. What was that? I turned, facing the direction of the sound, heart thumping wildly. "Help!" A voice, frantic and strained, called from the shadows. Panic surged again. It wasn't childlike, but it held a desperate edge that pulled me towards it. I had no choice. I had to find out who or what it was. As I inched my way to the source, the lights flickered again, revealing fleeting glimpses of other shadows weaving through the darkness. They darted in and out of sight, their motions frantic. I felt the air around me shift, thick with anticipation. Just when I thought I couldn't bear it any longer, I reached the final door. My hand trembled as I pushed it open, expecting the worst. But what I saw made me recoil in horror. The room was empty, and yet it felt as if something was waiting for me there. I took a cautious step back, and then everything went dark. I blinked, struggling to make sense of my surroundings. The darkness pressed against me, suffocating and heavy. My instincts screamed to retreat, but something inside compelled me to stay. The whispers grew faint, and a small beam of light pierced through the void, illuminating a figure in the distance. "Help!" It was a child's voice, strained and echoing. Instinctively, I started toward the light. As I approached, I saw the familiar silhouette of the little girl, whose presence had haunted me throughout my shifts. I was both terrified and drawn to her. "Why are you here?" I whispered, my throat dry as the fear washed over me. The giggles returned, intertwining with the echoes of the earlier cries, becoming a haunting chorus that wrapped around my senses. The girl took a hesitant step towards me, her luminous eyes searching mine. "Come play," she said again, the same playful but insistent tone from before echoing in the stagnant air. "Don't you want to leave?" I urged, desperate to break through whatever spell had gripped me. "We can find a way out of here together." But the corners of her mouth turned upward, her expression shifting from innocence to something eerily mischievous. "But you're already here. You can't leave, not yet." A chill coursed through my body. "What do you mean?" I felt the ground shift beneath me, my thoughts spiraling in confusion. "I can't stay here. I have to go back. I have a life. Suddenly the darkness trembled. Shadows erupted around us, swirling and pulsating, as if the very walls were alive. The familiar voices of the children surrounded me, their laughter morphing into cries of pain. I clutched my head as the noise multiplied, ringing in my ears. The girl merely watched, her eyes glimmering with something I couldn't decipher. "Help us," her voice echoed, but it felt more like a command than a plea. "Don't you want to play?" Just then I felt the ground beneath me open up. Gasping, I stumbled back, desperately grasping for anything to hold on to. The edge of a chasm stretched before me, filled with swirling shadows and echoes of laughter that morphed into cries. "Please!" But the child stepped back, tilting her head in curiosity. "Will you join us?" she prompted again. Panic surged through me. "No, I won't be like you!" I yelled, my voice trembling. I turned to escape, racing back towards the dim beam of light. Still, the shadows chased me, clawing at my back, trying to pull me into their abyss. With every ounce of strength, I surged forward. As I reached for the edge of the light, I saw it glimmer faintly, felt the hope swell within me. But just as I thought I was free, the darkness erupted behind me. Fingers of shadows tugged at my clothes, holding me back. "Don't leave!" the girl shrieked, her soft voice turning harsh. "You belong here now." My breath quickened, and I summoned every ounce of willpower I had left. I pushed through the final chokehold of shadows, light flooding into my vision. I was so close to being free, a whisper of light guiding my way. The darkness roared around me, angry and relentless, but I wasn't going to let it win. As I plunged into the light, a blinding flash enveloped me, and in the next moment I stumbled onto the cold tiles of the hospital corridor, gasping for air. I blinked, disoriented, the whispers now distant echoes fading into the background. Was I free? I scrambled to my feet, legs shaky as I bolted down the hallway toward the nurse's station. My heart raced, the adrenaline still coursing through me. I glanced back over my shoulder, half expecting to see the shadows spilling after me. But there was nothing. Only silence hung heavy in the air. And yet deep down I felt a lingering unease. What had I really escaped? I wanted to tell someone, to make them believe me. But it all seemed too surreal, too absurd. They wouldn't understand, and they'd brush it off as the ramblings of a tired night nurse. I quickly gathered my belongings, adrenaline still pumping. As I stepped outside, the cool night air welcomed me, fresh and clean. I took a deep breath, allowing a sense of calm to wash over me. I was free, or at least I thought I was. But as I looked back at the hospital, tinged with the soft glow of the emergency lights, a chilling thought crept into my mind. Could it all happen again? Would the shadows ever truly let me go? Days later I returned to my old routine in the daytime, but the night shift haunted me. I could still hear the echoes of that child's laughter, and sometimes, in the quiet moments, I'd feel the weight of countless unseen eyes watching over me. I had escaped, but it felt like I was still ensnared, tethered to something I couldn't quite grasp. The question lingered. Had I really walked away, or had I traded one set of illusions for another? I moved to a different city soon after. It helped to forget, but late at night, when the shadows became long and the world fell silent, I couldn't shake the feeling that something from that hospital still followed me. I often wonder, the little girl, what was her truth? Do those shadows still roam, waiting for their next game of play?